I wanted to take these moments together with you on this Monday after this last weekend, after the attempted assassination of former President Trump, to reflect on these moments together. We've been talking about how we all have a story and nations also have stories. And we want to be praying for our nation and for our world. I am praying for Mr. Trump and for his family, and thankful that his life was spared. It could have so easily been different. Praying for and mourning the fact that there was loss of life at people who were going to a rally. For the family of the one who did the terrible shooting, I can't imagine what it's like for them now. For our nation and how we move forward. And this is what I want to reflect on together. Violence is such a horrible thing. It is not a new thing, and it's worth reflecting on the gift that we have, that power is ordinarily transferred in a peaceful way in our country. I was just going through in the Old Testament as we think about the horror of the assassination of a leader. I'll just read, this is just from a couple of pages in the book of 2 Kings. Now, this is the world in which people lived in Bible times. And then they conspired against Amaziah, who was the king of Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish, but they sent men after him, and they killed him there. That's 2 Kings 14:19. And then in chapter 15, verse 10, Shallum, son of Jabesh, conspired against Zechariah. He attacked him in front of the people, assassinated him, and succeeded him as king. And then a few verses down, verse 14, then Menahem, son of Gedi, went from Tisra up to Samaria. He attacked Shallum, son of Jabesh, in Samaria, assassinated him, and succeeded him as king. And then a few verses later, chapter 15, verse 23, in the 50th year, Azariah, king of Judah, Pekahiah, became king of Israel. One of his chief officers, Pekah, son of Remaliah, conspired against him, taking 50 men of Gilead with him. He assassinated Pekahiah. And then a few verses later, then Hoshea, son of Elah, conspired against Pekahiah, son of Remaliah. He attacked and assassinated him and succeeded him as king in the 20th year of Jotham. And on and on and on it goes. 2 Kings 21. A group of officials conspired against the king at that time and assassinated the king in his palace. This is just the world in which people lived. Violence is not an unusual fact in our world. And because for a variety of reasons, some of us, particularly in a country like America, are so often protected by it, we tend to think that that's the norm and that we should be able to expect to just live in a bubble. There's a wonderful book, SPQR, History of the Roman Empire. Mary Beard writes there about how common political violence was there. Julius Caesar, the basically first emperor, used to be in a kind of a partnership with Pompey the Great, who suffered a very violent death. Julius Caesar, of course, was assassinated by Brutus and Cassius as others, and then Mark Antony. And then I read in a journal article recently, during the Roman Empire, 33 Roman emperors, 33 Caesars, were assassinated or executed. The most powerful men in Rome had the most dangerous job on the earth. Violence is not new. Something new was happening in Israel, but it did not come from the kings. It came from the prophets. So, for example, these are good words to think about on a day like this one. In the words of the prophet Isaiah, he says in chapter 6, in the year that King Uzziah died. Now it's worth pausing there for a moment. Uzziah had been a very formidable king, a great king, although part of what he did was to take on too much. The scripture says in his pride as a leader, he tried to act as priest as well as king, ended up with a kind of exclusion based on leprosy. And when he died, of course, in the ancient world, that meant everybody was trembling. Everybody was afraid. What will happen next? Who will take the throne? That's been the history of the human race. I saw the Lord, high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. That's a picture of an expression of his greatness. in the year that King Uzziah died, and it looked like the power that we all depend on, the power that we all recognize, the power that we think is ruling the world, in the year when that happened and things looked real shaky, I saw the Lord on a throne behind the resolute desk, if you will. There are kings and there are kings and there are kings, and then there is the King. And God comes to an ordinary man, Isaiah, whom shall I send? Who will go for us? And Isaiah, of course, is terrified. He had said, woe is me, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, and I have seen the living God, and God cleanses him and sends him. In moments like this, sometimes it's possible to become paralyzed, to live with a sense of anxiety. Violence is such a horrible thing, and to have it happen in a moment like this when our nation is already so divided and so polarized and so uncertain, and we can and should be deeply, deeply, deeply concerned about this, but not paralyzed and not inactive, because there is somebody who's sitting on a throne, and it is a different throne. There is someone who is seated behind a resolute desk, and it is a different desk, and that one is still at work. And politics, although they are very consequential and political leaders are very important, are not actually the ones who will rule this world. There is something new happening, but it doesn't come through kings. And one day, the King of Kings, the Prince of Peace came, and he was assassinated. And he was executed by the state. And he took it on himself willingly, because he knew that the only way that sin and guilt and darkness could be overcome was through sacrificial love and suffering compassion. And that is what he did. And that's what he calls you and I to. So you don't give up hope. This is not superficial. This doesn't mean that things will end up well. It means we've got a calling. God is still saying, whom shall I send? He still sits on the throne. That train still fills the temple. The place where God is present is full of his power and his love and his glory. And that can be in your life, and that's the plan. I was reading today, Condoleezza Rice wrote in response to this moment in our nation's history, that we're all called to do better. We must repudiate violence. And again, it's not just the act of violence that's the problem. And of course, Jesus so often taught about this, and we're learning about this as we look at our stories. It's the spirit of violence. And that's in me. You have heard that it was said, you shall not murder. But I say to you, anybody who is angry or who indulges or harbors anger, a spirit of violence, they're already going down that road. So we are called to repudiate violence, not just how terrible those people out there that do these awful acts, but it's me, woe is me. For I am a man of unclean lips and unclean hands and unclean heart. Repudiate violence. Lower the temperature of political debate. Political debate is a very, very important thing. But once it crosses the line where the other becomes inhuman, the enemy, I allow myself to indulge contempt. I have crossed a line that Jesus does not want me to cross. And then Connie says, uphold the hallmarks of a healthy democracy. And we can so take for granted, yep, we live in a place where we just assume that power will be transferred peacefully. Do you understand that has not been the experience of the vast majority of human beings who have lived throughout the vast stretches of human history? That is a gift that has come to us, and it must be cherished, and it must be honored and sacrificed for, and we must learn as students of the kingdom of Jesus, how do we best live in the kingdom of this earth? And be the kind of citizens in the kingdom of this earth who can bring to it the light of heaven, where we are the citizens of heaven, the light that comes and shines in the darkness, as John says, and the darkness has not put it out. The darkness cannot put it out. They couldn't put it out on the cross. They can't put it out with a bullet. So here's the prayer that we pray. This is from the Anglican Church, a prayer for a nation. And I invite you to pray this together with me right now. Whatever your political ideology, whatever your preferences, commitments, even wherever you are spiritually, I invite you to say these words together with me. Eternal God, in whose perfect kingdom no sword is drawn but the sword of righteousness, no strength known but the strength of love. So mightily spread abroad your spirit, that all peoples may be gathered under the banner of the Prince of Peace, as children of one God, to whom be dominion and glory, now and forever. Amen. Amen.